Well, howdy, folks. How's it going today? I hope you're all doing really good. Well, we got a fun one on the bench today. This is a lawsuit guitar, Ibanez Destroyer, to be exact. August 1977 was when this one was made. Really cool guitars. I have a soft spot for Explorers. I've always wanted one, and I'm not really sure why I've never owned one, but I do love these. I honestly like these better. So they made these ones from 75 to 78, and then they got sued by Gibson for basically cloning. And there are some differences, though. First off, this is not Carina wood. They sold it calling it Carina Finish. That is actually a wood called Sen, S-E-N, from Japan. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of similar to ash. Almost reminds me a little of oak, but more like ash. So that's what the wood is. The other thing that I read was that these were one-piece bodies. That is also not true. You can see they pancaked it with two pieces of wood, okay? And also, you know, there's multiple seams here. There's probably 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 pieces at least here. So I guess that debunks the whole theory of, well, if it's not one piece of wood, it's not going to sound correct. These actually sound really great. So, as the story goes, Eddie Van Halen played one of these on the first record, and maybe some other recordings as well. But from what I read, everything that doesn't have a whammy bar involved on the first album was one of these. He had a 75, and probably, I think he owned more than one, actually, but he did take a chainsaw, supposedly to one, and cut a big notch out of it, and then he cut some of this off, kind of rounded it, and they called it the Shark. He had a couple turnbuckles in between there. He said it ruined the guitar. It sounded really thin after that. So anyway, enough history, I guess. I do have one question. Now, there's some interesting things about this guitar. I've taken most of it apart. It's not getting any signal. I did get it to light the tuner up one time. One of these knobs kind of let some signal through, and then it went right back out, and I couldn't get it to work again. So, maybe this was Eddie's other guitar. I'm not sure, but that is definitely not factory, hopefully. It looks like somebody did that to accommodate this old switch here. So what I'm going to check is, yeah, so that won't fit in the original channel width here. I'm guessing that's why this happened. Okay, well, that's, you know, not uncommon. Eddie did it to his, so there you go. Anyway, we're going to look into that. I'm not sure about that switch. We'll test everything. But I do want to flip these pickups up and show you guys these. Maybe you guys can help me out. These are supposed to be Super 70s that came in these, okay? I really don't know what I'm looking at here. I've never dealt with any Super 70s, so I don't really know. Now, I couldn't find any markings on these, but they do seem to be typical as far as the manufacturer. So whether or not they're stock, I don't know. Again, if you guys know anything about that, if you'd help me out in the comments section, I'd appreciate it. So what we're going to do right now is put a piece of tape over these and one over the switch so I can flip this guitar over, and we're going to take a look at the parts here real quick. I'm also trying to step my game up with my new camera thing that I made from multiple camera things. Okay, this is your first ride in the new camera rig. I'm trying, folks. Bear with me. I'm not that good at this camera stuff. Now, I put this tape on my pant legs to kind of dumb it down. I also read that the finish on these guitars is very brittle. I'm not really sure why, but I read that, so I'm just taking some of the tack off the tape here. I don't want to peel the finish up on this. Okay, let's flip her over and see what's going on. Okay. Time to pull the sleeves up here, folks, and get your hands dirty. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, so we've got 3 different pots here. These 2 look legit. That one's squeaking and feels terrible. The middle one feels pretty good. Let's go out to the, I'm guessing this is a tone because it's got a cap on it. That's terrible. That's dry and like feels like there's sand in there. That could be part of the problem. We got an old cap on there too. I can test that and see what's going on. This does not look really factory to me as far as the wiring. We have 3 pieces of braided wire coming in here. 2 of them have a plastic coating on them, and one of them doesn't. These 2 red leads are coming from the pickups, as we just saw when I flipped them over. So I know those are pickup leads, and I can tell just by the lugs they're soldered to. Okay, let's take a look at the pots. Maybe you guys can help me out with those. All right, this is what we're looking at. Now, this is kind of some sort of dust cover, a paper thing here. I've never really run into that either. The pots are not stamped. There's no markings, nothing. This bare piece of wire was coiled up and they had it tagged with the screw that goes through the cover. I don't know. If it is factory, it's really kind of, I don't know. I really don't. I don't think this is factory, but it could be. I think these could be. This one doesn't look right to me. It's the same style. Maybe it's just missing its little dust cap thing here. So I know these 2 pots are bad, without a doubt. So what we're going to do is I'm going to dig through my pile and see what I got here. And put some new pots in and see what that does. Well, that ought to take care of business. Got 2 brand new CTS pots right here. So I'm going to change those out definitely. And if this one even sneezes when I turn it, that's going to. You know, you're there, you got it apart, you might as well fix it for the price of a pot. Now, if it's good, it's good. I'm not going to change it. I mean, I've had potentiometers in guitars for 15 to 20 years and never had to change anything. You know, maybe blow them out with a little spray once in a while, but, you know, it all depends on what you're doing with them. If you're playing Cathedral by Van Halen and winging the knob all night, it's going to stick. They'll get hot and they will actually seize up on you. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put 2 new pots in. I'm going to test that cap too and make sure it's good. If it isn't, I probably have another one, you know, even vintage. I have a bunch of those kicking around. So it's just a matter of testing them. And you can do that right here with one of these testers. Let me move that. You can get these on Amazon or eBay. They're really inexpensive. I think I paid like $15 for this. Now what it does, you see this little lever? You take a capacitor or any component, a resistor, anything, LED, diodes, anything that you are going to probably use on a guitar, usually has two legs, so you can put a leg in any one of these, and then you just clamp them down with this. You can see that little thing clamp them together. You hit the button. There's nothing in there, obviously, but that will tell you that it's a capacitor or a resistor or a diode. It will tell you the values of it as well. Is it laboratory accurate? Probably not, but it's good enough for what we're doing. And I usually test my parts if I'm building a pedal or even doing this kind of stuff, just to see, if they're really close and also if they work. Whether it's a cap or a resistor or, no matter what the component is, like I said, that will test it. And that's really handy. Before I had that, there was no really way to know. I didn't even know what some of the components were until I plugged them into that. So that's helped me out a lot as far as learning that kind of stuff. So new parts, I'm going to look the jack over too. We'll pull that out, make sure we got a good contact, no loose wires there as well. Now that'll pretty much clean this end of it up. And if I can't get it to work, then we're going to move on to the switch. And that really would have to be the last step as far as the electrical. I know the pickups work because I tested them. And if all these parts will, they will work, and we put new ones in. And like I said, that one feels just like new. So we'll give that a shot first and then go from there. Okay, well, we're going to unhook these parts. I'm letting the soldering gun heat up. I drew a little diagram here just so I know what wires go where. Not a bad piece of business because, let's face it, we all forget, And if you get, rambunctious and unhook a bunch of them, you might be lost for a while, so... Okay, that middle one is a bare one. I didn't mark that one, so I gotta mark that one. Hold on. Okay, well, we got a bunch of stuff grounded together here. Alright, there's that. That's the pickup lead right there for sure. I'm not sure what this is, if this is coming from the switch maybe. So they've got the braided part grounded to the back of the pot. And just one solid piece of wire was hooked to the middle lug. Oh, that solder is warm. Okay. Gotcha. Alright, I'm going to wipe my soldering gun off. You ought to keep a wet sponge on your bench so you can wipe your tip off and keep that nice shiny tip. Your tips will last a lot longer. And you got to be careful with finish and soldering around these guitars. That solder can just kind of jump off there when you pull a wire off, and you can burn somebody's stuff up or your own. Okay. Everything looks okay. We do need to ground one lug, which I'll probably do with another one wire. Usually you ground this lug to the back of the pot, but I'm going to jump a wire to the other pot and then the other one anyway, so I'll probably catch that all at the same time. You don't want to try to heat these up, a bunch of times. Always have it turned all the way off or all the way on. And that's something you got to remember, because if it's halfway in between, you can get it hot and stick the wiper inside, and then you'll feel this big divot, right in the middle. So, just keep that in mind when you're doing this. I also wanted to add, if you're looking at wiring diagrams and you see a potentiometer, this is how it's orientated, with the twist part where your knob goes is always pointing down. Okay? All right. Okay, that's all she wrote. Now I try to fill the eyelet right in with solder. You don't always see that, but it's just kind of a thing I like to do to make sure it's in there. Let it cool down for a second before you move it, and you should be good to go. Okay, and with the second wire here that was in the middle lug. Now this wire was, this is a braided wire with shielding on it, and that shielding was grounded to the back of the pod as well. But this wire was hooked to the middle lug. There we go. Okay, so again, I'm going to make that one connection to the back of the pot with all the wires that are going to all kind of junction in there, and I'm going to do that in one shot. So I'm not going to heat the pot up 6 times to keep hooking wires on there, okay? That's a pretty good tip, really, honestly. Take it from someone that's burned a lot of them out over the years. You know, it took me a while to figure that out, but I wanted to share that with you. Okay, so I'm going to move on to this one. Now, you can unhook one wire at a time, you know, and just swap them over to your new pot. You know, if you don't draw a diagram, if you don't want to do that. I like to draw the diagram out, honestly, just so I have it for reference in the future and whatnot. But, so what I'm going to do right now, there's 2 wires coming into this middle lug. I'm guessing one of those is going to the jack. So they look kind of loose too. Not a lot of solder on there. Let's see if we can get them out. Okay, so that's the old one. There is a number on that one. Would you look at that? It's in bad shape. Okay, so I've taken these 2 white wires and kind of twisted them together. I'm going to put a piece of shrink tube down over there just to tidy things up too. It's got this braided cloth stuff just kind of hanging out everywhere. It's this stuff that's on some of the cloth wire. I don't know. I've had issues with it getting sucked into the solder joint. You know, it's just had to hold that stuff out of the way while you're hooking the wires together and trying to solder everything in there. Sometimes it can happen, so I make sure that stuff's trimmed up at least trim it back, or put a little piece of shrink tube on there, and that'll keep things out of your way. Okay, we're going to hook that new pot right onto there. So this one wasn't too difficult to really remember. These 2 white wires were hooked right into this middle lug here. And then the lug that's on the bottom of the pot, the way it's orientated right now, is where the capacitor goes. You stick one in that lug and then ground it to the back. You can also use that for grounding too. I've seen that done as well, but I'm just going to hook it up the way it was and see if it works. I mean, if it doesn't, then I'll dismantle it and trace every wire down in it until I figure out what's going on. But it's a pretty basic thing anyway, from what it looks like. So, the next thing is to look this pot over in the center. Now they got a bare wire that's jumping the ground across the pots here, and I'm not a big fan at all of that, because that can touch, you know, onto one of those lugs when you're jamming all this stuff back in there, and that can really cause some issues. So I think what we'll do is jump some sheathed wire across each one, and that way, you know, we know nothing's going to touch in the wiring harness here. Okay, there's one wire right here on the back of this pot, as you can see right here, and it goes to nothing. I'm going to say that was a later addition. So I think somebody's definitely rewired this, possibly. They just basically cut that off and left it there. There's definitely no wires that are broken off that I can see, or any laying in there. So I'm going to look this over a little bit closer. I did reflow those two solder joints, and looks like all we got to do here is just tie the grounds together, and we'll check the capacitor, and if that's not good, we'll put a new cap in and try it out and see if we got any signal. And we'll pull the jack out too and look that over real close before we plug it in, just to make sure that's all good and there's no loose wires. Okay, so I checked the cap out, and the cap's not good either, so I'm going to have to dig through my parts cabinets here and see what I got for caps. I've got multiple containers with capacitors in them, and some of them are new and some of them are old, but some of them I've also tested already, and it's going to take me a little bit to probably find those, as usual. You know how that goes. So this is going to be the end of part 1 on this guitar. Part 2, really all I got left to do is reconnect this, like I said, and I need to polish the frets up, make sure the frets are level, no high frets or anything like that, and hopefully we can get this one playing. And I'd like to be able to do that in the end of part 2 if possible, but you never know how things work out, folks. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate all the views, all the nice comments, all the new subs. Some pretty amazing stuff for sure, folks, and I hope you guys do enjoy this channel. I try to keep it interesting. Usually got some pretty cool guitars on the bench, and there are times when I actually play guitar too, which that hasn't been the case lately, but that's okay. I still enjoy doing this stuff too in my spare time, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks again. We'll see you real soon. Be good. Okie doke.